We have a surprise guest coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it at that. Don't want to jinx it. Very exciting. So it's fortuitous that we did come in live on this Black Friday edition. Governor Jesse Ventura is our guest. Governor, the banks are collapsing. I want to get into that. Dubai and deep water as ripples from debt crisis spread globally. We're going to get into dollar hits, 14-year low against the yen, gold above, well, right up at $1,200 right now. But first, let's get into vaccines. I know you've had some personal family experience with that, and perhaps if you'd like, share that with listeners. If not, that's fine. But I have the headlines here out of the Toronto Star, Associated Press, Euronews. Faulty swine flu vaccine withdrawn in Canada after causing thousands of cases of bad reactions. They're admitting in Europe that some of the vaccines have actually been killing people. What's your take on this whole swine flu hysteria?
Well, I haven't been vaccinated, and I won't be. I don't particularly go with that. I don't know. I'm kind of a weird case. I remember when I did Predator down in Mexico, we were down on the set down there for 8 to 10 weeks, and everybody on the set got sick except me. And I asked the doctor, I said, when I was 19 years old, I went to Southeast Asia for a 9-month tour and then an 8-month tour. And I said, whenever you'd arrive over there, within 48 hours, you would get so sick that you'd be begging for death. And then it would disappear, and for the rest of the tour, you were fine. And I asked him, this was years later in Mexico when everyone got sick, including Arnold. And I said, doctor, do you think that I've developed kind of an immunity? And I told him my story, and he said, yeah, probably most likely. Now, who knows? I might get the swine flu next week. I don't know. Maybe that's the kiss of death for me. But I don't get vaccines personally because I've really lost a lot of faith in government and my trust in government and what government does. And to me, I that's just me personally. And so I won't get one. And whatever other people do, that's their decision to make.
But the government's been trying to push and order nurses and doctors to take it. The AMA has come out now.
Oh, yeah, no, and I think that's outrageous. Government telling you and forcing you to get vaccines, to me, is crazy. It should be your choice but then again, if the choice is the wrong one, then you're responsible. See, I'm a great believer in personal responsibility, which means cutting government out of our lives, and we accept responsibility for our own lives.
I read an AP interview, and I've never even brought this up with you privately, that you believe vaccines hurt somebody in your family?
Yeah, my daughter was injured by vaccines. But she's a rare case. She was born with some problems, and they had mandatory government vaccines that she was required by law to get before she could go to school. And she was seizure free. We had controlled them. And then the moment she got the vaccine, she went into a full grand mal seizure that night. And the sad thing is that you can never, ever get any type of compensation for it because no doctor will get on the stand and say that the vaccine caused it.
Absolutely.
And
plus,
so
they
always have the plausible denial. So because I had another friend that had happened to their daughter, and he tried to go to court on it, and it cost him thousands of dollars, and he ultimately ended up losing because there's no doctor that'll get on the stand and unequivocally state that the vaccine caused it. But there are cases where it does cause irreparable damage to people, small minority groups of people, and it's treated mostly like collateral damage, cannon fodder. That, it's good for the big good of the big picture and most people. If some people get hurt by it, well, so be it. And I don't take that position, Alex, because to me that's like the death penalty. If we put 100 people to death that deserve to die and were guilty, but yet we kill one innocent person, I think that my opinion is that's too big a price to pay for it.
I agree. And once you set that precedent, why not kill 10 innocent people so you can get one bad guy?
Exactly. It's a slippery slope that you go down. And that's the bad thing. So to me, taking these vaccines has to be an individual decision. They should not be ordered by any form of government or anything like that. It should be up to you. If you want to roll the dice and you want to take the chance, you should have the right to do so.
Absolutely. Governor Jesse Ventura is our guest. We're going to come back, talk a little bit more about vaccines. Then we're going to get into ClimateGate. Not just the thousands of emails, now the hacked documents, which the police are admitting are accurate, where they talked about fixing the climate models. The computer programs in the code have instructions from the programmers how to carry out the fraud. This is bringing down the man-made global warming hoax. Governor Jesse Ventura with us a little bit into the next hour. Then we have a surprise guest. And I'll assure you, you don't want to miss this coming up. All right, let's get into the serious subject of vaccines, then get into the climate. Governor, I happen to have bought over 100 textbooks. We have 2 rooms full of them here at the office, but one of them was written by the White House science czar, who, by the way, is in these ClimateGate emails, how they want to shut off everybody's resources, shut off the West. Only the U.S. and Europe have to make cuts. Third world doesn't, which will deindustrialize us. In here, they talk about putting chemicals in the water to sterilize us. In other government and UN documents I have, they talk about putting chemicals in the vaccines to cause autoimmune disease and sterilize people. I've had brain surgeons like Dr. Russell Blaylock on who discovered that they know they're doing this by design. And so your instinct to not take the vaccines is good, but take Dale Dudley, local radio talk show host. He took the regular seasonal flu shot. His hands went paralyzed. His feet went paralyzed. He went into all these specialists, and they admitted, you've got Guillain-Barré, but it went away. It normally goes away with people. I mean, this is some serious stuff, and I know I'm in the population control episode. We talk about that in the upcoming TV show that premieres next Wednesday at 9 o'clock Central all across the United States. But, I mean, researching population reduction, talking to some of the, I don't know if you want to say the name, because I could have interviewed him, but I want to wait for the TV show. But you guys got in touch with an insider whistleblower from Maurice Strong's organization. This is some powerful info. What's your take on that?
Well, I'll tell you, Alex, you don't know what to take from it, to be honest. It's so repulsive when you hear it that you just can't imagine that there are people out there with this type of thing on their agenda. I guess that's the best way I can put it to you. It becomes almost to where to the point of unbelievable that human people could have on their agenda what some of these people have and the arrogance of them for having it.
Well, segueing out of vaccines, John P. Holdren is in these thousands of emails, the White House science czar 3 years ago when he was one of the head people at Harvard, on how to spin. I don't know if you ran into him when you were at Harvard,
no.
On how to spin this and control this and cook the numbers and fake the data. And, oh, my God, the Earth's getting colder for the last few years. How do we fix the numbers? We've caught them red-handed. Lord Mockton, who I know you guys interview for the TV show, he is calling for criminal indictments. Senator Inhofe is calling for criminal investigations here in the United States. I mean, to have the smoking gun, it's one thing to catch Al Gore saying polar bears can't swim and saying we're all going to drown, and it turns out that's disinformation. He then just says he made a mistake. But to have the internal emails from the main university that the UN is citing, the IPCC, I mean, to have this smoking gun, what do you think should happen?
Well, certainly, if this is a fraud, then the fraud needs to be exposed and the proper things need to be done. Because I was a believer, I was told, and it sounds very believable, and all of us are against polluting, I think that's the common thing, is that we all feel that there should be less pollution in the air, and if we can get more miles to a tank of gas, those are good things. We should work for those things. We should work to use the sun. We should find alternative energy. Those are all positive, good things. But then when I learn about something is being done to strictly manipulate and become a revenue getter, to where it becomes a profit maker, where they use something that might be a good thing, but then they twist it and turn it into a massive profit-making machine, because along with controlling profits comes controlling people and power. Money and power go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
And when it turns to that level of money and power over something that, you know, we all agree on, we should pollute less. We've only got one planet, and it's a good idea to take care of it. But to allow it to then spin into being a huge money-making, profiteering thing beyond the good of it, that's where you draw the line and say these people ought to go to jail for what they do.
Well, what about the fact that only the U.S., England, and Europe have to make the cuts? And so if carbon dioxide is so deadly, of course, plants breathe it, but they're saying listing it as a poison. If you only cut it out in the West, all the studies show that it will go to China and India and Mexico and 160 other countries where they'll have zero emissions controls, and actually more of these gases will be released.